Chiefs-Raiders. Closer than I thought it was going to be. Thought Patrick Mahomes was going to put up 55, because of the Kermit shenanigans.
A little angry.
A little angry, and you never want to motivate Patrick Mahomes. Although, this is also why I felt like the Chiefs were going to light it up, because it's not like the Chiefs get to be slighted very often, Who's slighting the Kansas City Chiefs at this point?
It feels like they're just so comfortable.
Nobody.
Right? Yeah.
And so I felt like, all right, a little extra motivation. Finally, Mahomes got to be out there and be angry, whatever. Kansas City ends up winning this game 27-20. The Raiders, I guess, are one of the few teams that continuously plays Kansas City very tight, so I probably should have thought of that as well. Let's look at Kansas City's top 5 graded players. Linebacker Drew Tranquill is at the top of the list with an 85.3. Guard Joe Thuney with a 79.5. Defensive tackle Chris Jones a 79.3. Linebacker Leo Chanel with a 76.8, and then center Creed Humphrey with a 76.4. Quarterback Patrick Mahomes an 84.6 overall grade in this one. Then on the other side of things for the Raiders, wide receiver Jacoby Myers with a 75.3. Tight end Brock Bowers having a hell of a year, 73.7. Edge rusher Tyree Wilson getting in the top 5 with a 73.6. Edge rusher Calebon Chase on a 70.3, and then center Andre James with a 70.1. Quarterback Gardner Minshew with a 77.3 overall grade. So I told the story. What do we got?
All right, I always try to find other things that aren't Patrick Mahomes that are the reason the Chiefs win, right? I always talk about Chanel and McDuffie.
We try to.
I do. I actually, I like a lot of the rest of their team. Right?
Yeah.
It's a darn good football team. But no, this was a Patrick Mahomes game. This was just most impressive stat that tells it all that stuff. This is Patrick Mahomes. Look, third down. This game was won by the Chiefs on third down. If you take out a kneel down at the end of the game that was icing the game that came on third down because it was 3 in a row, whatever, 12 for 15 on third downs, which is just nuts. Patrick Mahomes on third down, 9 for 11, 102 yards, 90 passing grade, also ran for 2 first downs. He just, when it mattered most, he was unstoppable. He had one of those games where every single time he needed a play in a big situation to extend a drive, he got it. On early downs, Trevor, his passing grade was 69.2. On third down, it was 90. He's Patrick Mahomes. This really not a whole lot of other ways to describe it at this point. We've described it every way we possibly can over the years, and he just has the magic about him some days where it's just like, man, you can get him in tough spots, but you're just not beating him. And the Raiders, and they played a pretty good game, all things considered, and considering what the Raiders have left on their team right now, but Mahomes was just too much for them.
The Raiders had a chance in this one. They really did. And they didn't have the balance on offense that they needed. Minshew, 77.3 overall grade this week. So he was not terrible in any way, shape, or form. But then you go to the run game, Alexander Madison, 15 rushing yards on 14 carries. I mean, it's just, how many times are we going to say this week, you've got to be able to run the football better? These teams just cannot run the football. And the Raiders were another example. If they run the ball a little bit better, even like at a not great 3.0 yards per carry average, that maybe wins you this football game. That maybe gets you to a certain point. And Walt's probably going to disagree with me in the chat. He's going to be like, no, the Raiders were going to somehow, some way lose this football game. Maybe so. But the stat that told the story is the lack of balance with the Raiders offense in this one. Because Gardner Minshew, he's going to give you a good game. I think it'll be more bad than good, I really do. But every now and then, he will give you a good game. He is capable of doing that at the NFL level. And just to absolutely lay an egg the way that they did in the run game, you picked a bad game to do that. Because if it was a little bit more balanced, I think they would have had a chance in this one.
It's been a problem for him all year.
Yeah. Right. And I think that the most impressive for me was actually what the Raiders did in run defense. I thought they were fantastic in run defense. 72.7 run defense grade as a team this week. Kareem Hunt just had a 2.8 yards per carry average for Kansas City. Robert Spillane, their Raiders linebacker, had an 81.6 run defense grade. Tyree Wilson showed up big in the run game, 70.0 run defense grade himself. So they were so fundamentally sound on the defensive side of the football. And it feels like when the offense plays well, the Raiders defense doesn't play well. When the defense plays well, the offense doesn't play well. They just can't quite play complementary football. And then even just looking at the offensive side of things, they pass the ball well. They finally pass the ball well. They can't run the football well. And so it's always sort of something with this Raiders team. They were close, and I want to give them credit for it, but It wasn't good enough there, but my most impressive was how well they were able to hold up against the Chiefs against the run. But who was the most impressive for you?
Yeah, the pass rush, you mentioned they were close, but the pass rush here kind of exemplifies what we had here. Tyree Wilson did have a sack late in the first quarter, but that was their only sack of the day. They only pressured Mahomes 10 out of 44 opportunities, 56.8 pass rush grade as a team, and only 3 pressures in the second half of what was a close game. Mahomes was able to work on third down because the Raiders were just not getting to him. It's been a struggle. I over and over I've mentioned the Malcolm Kuntz injury as a big thing that really hurt them. And if Tyree Wilson's coming on, that's great. But if they're going to stop a guy like Mahomes, they got to rush the passer better. This was a pretty quiet day from Max Crosby and the guys on the defensive line.
Raiders in coverage, their linebacker specifically was tough. I talked about Robert Spillane being really great against the run, 43.6 coverage grade. Devon Diablo, 38.0 coverage grade. Just kind of got exploited there, right? It was a big game for Travis Kelce, National Tight End Day. And he was the leading receiver for the Kansas City Chiefs in this one. I think they're just attacking the linebackers, and they realize that they got some thumpers. They know that the Raiders got some thumpers at the linebacker level, but those guys aren't really coverage backers, and I think they were able to really exploit that weakness. And it was just the little things that made the difference in this game.